a few tech issues here we're working on. So we are now going live. Can you hear me, Mattia?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yes. Am I too loud, or do I need to turn it down
Nah,
a bit, or everything
nah, we're
okay?
good. Yeah.
Mattia and I both do a live broadcast. So he's got a podcast and I have a broadcast, and I'm doing 3 different broadcasts on social media, and we're both public speakers. So we're ready to roll here and about to talk.
Absolutely.
So, Mattia, tell us where you are in London. Where are you
Well,
located?
well, first of all, thank you for inviting me, Jessica. It's always good to be here. So I'm based in London, just outside on the outskirts of London. I've been in London for the last 8, 9 years. So yeah, it's a good city.
I love London too. So Mattia is a sommelier. He's a wine writer and global trotter. So tune in with us here. We'll start chatting soon. And we are now broadcasting live all over the world. I think we're on about 12 different Facebook pages. We are on LinkedIn Live. We are on YouTube Live, and we are on Facebook Live. So right now we'll talk real quickly about the broadcast, and then we will talk with Mattia about his business and his broadcast and his work history, etc.
Yeah.
So Time to Wine is a live broadcast that's featuring experts in wine, social media, marketing, and leadership. And it's 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it is worldwide. So this is very popular in South Africa, Australia, in Europe. It is now on LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, and Twitter. This second broadcast is a video interview that is now every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is also a cast of international favorites. We are now going live on YouTube Live, LinkedIn Live. I was approved for LinkedIn Live and Facebook Live. You can interact with us and ask questions. This is a live chat, so we can screw up and do all kinds of fun things here. So, and also make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can get more information about the upcoming interviews. I do interviews about 3 days a week. Now, Mattia is going to talk a little bit about his background. Again, he's a sommelier. He's a wine writer. He's a globe trotter, as a lot of us are. He's achieved his WSETDiploma, which drives him to produce articles, and he now has his podcast. So, Mattia, why don't you talk a little bit about your work history?
Oh, a long story. No, I've been basically most of my experience has been done here in London with wine. I had some previous experience in Italy working in a wine shop, but for me, wine and the starting of my job work has always been here in London. I started working in a restaurant originally as a bartender, and then I saw the interest my interest growing for wine, so I decided to make the move and start working as a junior sommelier. And then I moved to another restaurant, which is the restaurant I'm working at currently, which is called Petersham Nurseries. And there I grow to my current position, which is Head Sommelier.
You're the head. You're the head.
Yeah, Head
Oh,
Sommelier.
okay. So in your current position. So talk a little bit. I know that you're a specialist in Italian wine, but you
Yeah.
want to talk about your wine list that you're actively doing right now?
Yeah, so the wine list at the restaurant is mostly focused on Italian wines, and we have about 250 wines, and we do change them quite often. We have something we call like the Somm wine, which are like guest wine from anywhere in the world that they change regularly. So every time you come back to the restaurant, you would have something different, a new experience. And we do work a lot with like small growers. We specialize on biodynamic and small producers around Italy, and we bring up some wineries directly from Italy as well.
So you want to? How did you you moved from Italy to the UK? When did you do that?
It was 2013. I think 2013 or 2012. I'm getting confused now. But it was middle of the summer, and I was on the talk for a while, but then I made a decision. It was actually my mother who convinced me to go and to try, and it was an idea to stay for 1 year. But here we are. 8 years later, I'm still here.
I've been to the UK once, and I've been to London, and I just loved London. Okay, so I know this is a difficult question. What is your favorite wine, or what would you say some of your favorite wines are?
Oh, well, I guess if I have to say, I think of a wine region where I always go back to, and I like to just. It makes me feel comfortable and comforted. Is the Piedmont, Barolo, Barbaresco, Langhe, where it's like home, second home for me. So that's my connection there. But I like to try different wines from all over the world. So I'm very open. I had quite a strong feeling for wines from the south of Chile, for outside of Italy. So south of Chile for me is an incredible area for wine and winemaking. Also intellectual property. There's a lot of young producers that are doing a lot of interesting job with very, very old vines, old varieties. It's a very interesting area. I've been there last 2 years ago, and yeah, it was incredible.
I'm about to go to Brazil, so I'll show you some wine when I'm there. So I'll be in Brazil here in a couple of weeks. So we'll talk a little bit about Brazilian wine, which is
Yeah,
in the south of Brazil. So I'd
yeah,
like to go to Chile too. So okay, now you have a lot of wine education. So do you want to talk a little bit about your wine education history
yeah.
and
So
what let me ask you, I'll throw this question in. How did you get interested in wine to begin with?
so I think how I got interested in wine, it was quite early age. Well, I was quite young, and I remember going with my grandfather, going around vineyard in Piedmont, picking up wine and bringing back the wine. And we would bring back something like Damijon, which like 30 liters of wine in these glass bottles. And then throughout the year, we would bottle them and then keep it in the cellar. But it was very basic, and it was for me it was like my first memories with wine. And I remember running and to the cellar of my grandfather when they would do the bottling, helping them out doing our little bottling at home. So it was, which was fantastic. But the educational side really came through when I was in London. uh, I had the passion for cocktail and spirits, and I did some mixology courses when I was in Italy. But when I moved to London, really the interest shifted to wine, and I decided to do the. I looked around and I looked what was the option for studies, and I decided to follow the WSET um, uh, schools. So basically, I did it up to the diploma, which is like the fourth and the last level of WCT. And it took me 5 years to do from the level two to the level four. And yeah, it's been 4 intense years of studying every day, basically.
What sort of jobs are available if you have a WSET diploma? What do you see that what kind of doors does it open for you?
Um, the diploma the WCT is more focused on, I would say, on the business side of wine. So there's a lot of opportunity on like shops, retails, import and export of wine, and but there is also a lot of opportunity for writing and communication, because the knowledge is very much on every part of the world. That you have, I have to study from winemaking to viticulture and all the different regions and all the different styles of wine, and that it creates a very good baseline where you're able to understand most of the dynamics of how wine works and the business work, which I think is that was the reason really I decided to do the WSET courses in the first place. I really was interested in the business side and in the marketing and in the history of wine. So that was what drove me to them.
Well, if you're looking at my LinkedIn page or my Instagram page, Federica is Italian and she's from Florence. And if you look at what I'm posting, I just posted one. She does wine labels. She does graphic design for wine labels, and they're just stunningly beautiful. So I'll be posting. I posted the first one on Instagram and LinkedIn, and I'll be posting more of those. So she's really interesting to talk to. I'll connect you with her also. So, okay, now you have a very successful podcast looking into wine. So, do you want to talk a little bit about your podcast and then talk about who you are interviewing? You have a really nice group of people. And one thing I wanted to say real quick is we are now broadcasting live. And you are welcome to ask questions. Please let us know that you're watching. So click the hearts, click the little hands. Let us know you're here and that you're watching us. And if you have any questions, it will broadcast on the screen and we're happy to answer it. And I can see it over here. So go ahead and give us some love if possible. We'd love to hear from you and know that you're watching. And then even if this has a replay live, and if you were watching the replay, let us know that you're watching and we're happy to answer questions. Okay. All right. So do you want to talk a little bit about your podcast and your guest?
Yeah. So, I mean, the podcast, the idea was came quite straightforward. I finished the diploma, like, as I said, 2.5 years ago. And the idea of the podcast was as a way to continue learning and continue studying. But I didn't want to do it only for myself because the study for the diploma is very isolating. So I wanted to have bring some people with me while I explore different topics, and that's why I wanted to do the podcast. So the podcast started last year, so July last year. So it's been around for 1.5 years now, just over a year actually. And most of the guests have been quite I always looking for guests that are very knowledgeable of other topics. So I interviewed authors, wine book authors, and I really enjoyed interviewed researchers from university or different part of winemaking researchers. And then I like to think of a topic and what is interest me or can be interesting for also the listeners, and I look for the best person to make it as clear and as simplified for me and for everybody who's listening, thus creating quite good educational content.
So right now, how many podcasts have you done? And what do you think? Okay, I haven't done a podcast, so I'm doing this StreamYard. What do you think are the big differences between the podcast and what do you think? What do you like about it? And how many have you done?
So I've done so far 27, 28 episodes between the first and the second season. We just started the second season now in October, a month ago, so we just restarted the second season. And I mean, for me, what attracts me about the podcast is the fact that they can. I do listen to quite a few podcasts, and I like the fact that I could download them and I can listen to them afterwards. I can listen to them while I'm on the car, and I can listen to them on the airplane. And once I downloaded them, so they're very broadened. But it's also, for me, it's interesting because it's an active way to project, to search for something, because listeners who are listening to my podcast are listeners who are interested and are looking to find information about the certain topic, because the podcast algorithm or iTunes, Spotify algorithm is not as strong as other YouTube or Instagram, for instance. So it's people who are searching, typing for a certain people or certain person, and then they listen to the podcast because they find it could be interesting for them. So that was the thing attracted me. And
Okay, and I was just going to post something here, and there's a little typo, so I was trying to fix it real quick so I could post it and get rid of it real quick. So, what I wanted to ask you also is, so what do you think the highs and lows are of podcasting?
well, the more I'm doing it, the more I realize how many hours of work it actually takes. There's a lot of I
think I'm
had
with you there.
yeah I had quite a few. I had a good ideas of the hours and everything before starting, but to be honest, they haven't been much more than I expected, but have been a bit more. But to be honest, the more I'm doing it, also finding it that then is becoming more and more, or I'm becoming more organized and more efficient, so with organizations and interviewing and this sort of thing. So that for me is definitely going to become a high with time. The more I do it, the more easier, the more stream to the whole operation is going to be, which is definitely important for maintaining consistency. But the high, I mean, for me, when I look at why I'm doing this and what is the ripple and this compounding effect of making podcasts. And I mean, I look at it and I say, okay, well, I'm doing interviews and I speak to people I'm interested about. I'm learning a lot, so that's already is a plus side. And then in the meantime, I can bring other people with me, and I can make sure then other people learn too, and that is always a fantastic feeling when you get a feedback about the podcast and people likes it, people find it valuable. And for me, it's always been creating valuable content that someone who can listen to it and can truly learn from it. So that was is always for me is the biggest high. And yeah, there will be more in the future, I'm sure. The more I do it, the more the network grows and all these compounding effect that will get into role, basically.
And that's one of the things I would say one of my highs are is that I have met so many people doing this, and there is a compounding effect of a network. So I interview one person and then they network me with another person, and it just goes on. And it's like, so now one, it's become very normal just to speak to anybody. I've been working in sales and marketing my whole life, so I'm pretty comfortable with that and public speaking. But it's really nice to have the opportunity to speak to all types of different people. And if nothing else, I have friends in every country at this juncture. But I think right now for me, there's a lot of collaborating going on. So there are a lot of people that are interested in going to South Africa, and South Africa is very interested in having U.S. customers come to South Africa. So I have people in South Africa that I'm working with on tours to South Africa, and I've had universities in the United States that are interested in tours. So, okay, again, send us some love. I see some people that are clicking on the link. If you let us know you're here, we would just love it. And also, I'm going to show this little thing. I'll show this to you, Mattia. Okay, Avena Wine Tools has given me this lovely high-end, I'm putting this in front of my face, I can't, high-end wine stoppers. If you would like to participate in a giveaway, you can go to my YouTube page, click on subscribe to my YouTube page, and tell me where you are located to enter to win these lovely wine stoppers from Avena Wine Tools. And this is given to me by David Turner, who is also in the UK, and I'll introduce you to him as well. So send us some love. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're interested in these lovely wine stoppers. Let me know. And now on to the next question. So, okay, I'm going to ask you real quick. I don't think I had written this down, but this is normal for both of us. So let's talk a little bit about culture shock. So there's got to be Italy to the UK, culture shock.
Oh, culture.
Or
Well,
culture shock with any other culture that you've been dealing with?
yeah, that is. I mean, there has always been that. Obviously, has been some culture shocks, and I mean, some of them are very positive. I like the difference between Italy and UK, how polite and the learn to say please and thank you, that which in Italy is not as common. We don't do it, especially in
Well,
a
please and thank
workplace.
you.
Yeah, please and thank you. Then in a workplace, it's much less used as just commands, basically, most of the time. So that was definitely a different approach. But for me, also like the culture. I mean, I'm thinking the more I'm staying here, the more I'm becoming Anglophile. You know, my culture. I'm finding it. The more I'm being here, the more I'm loving the British culture, the way they are, they operate, and the way they live their life is very fascinating, and the lifestyle is very akin to something I like. So I'm very drawn to it. Um, other cultures differences or shocks I found. Oh, I mean, also just like when you get to the tube and you go to the elevator, so the just the fact that they have rules to stay on the left or stay on the right, and in Italy it doesn't exist. The queuing is such a different. It's a sport in England. In Italy, it's a different sport to try to jump it. In England, it's something they generally like to do. It is so it's a very different experience, but it was nice.
My husband's from South America, and they have a different experience with the queue than we do in the United States. So, for example, in the United States, when we need to use the ladies' restroom, we stand in line.
Yeah.
In Brazil, it's every man for him or herself. So I was in the restroom and I came out and I said, uh, I don't know how to. They're just sort of, there's no line. It's sort of like whoever wants to knock the other person down to get to the restroom. I said, I haven't gone to the restroom yet. I don't really know how to navigate this situation.
Yeah.
And he said, well, just push them aside. Go to the restroom. I was like,
Yeah.
okay. So, and then, okay. I love culture shock stories. Okay. Now, the fun and excitement of navigating through COVID. How's that going? How has that
It's
been for you?
it's been tough, but it's getting better. I mean, especially here in the UK, there has been a lot of less restriction done over the last easing the restriction more and more. So it's becoming more and more normal, like before COVID, which is a good thing. The economy is going well, so everything is going quite well. We don't have to wear masks anymore. You I mean, it's pretty much like beforehand. The tubes are getting busier, and everything everywhere it gets busier. You can just go from one shop to another, and also traveling has become a bit more easy. You don't have to do many tests anymore. I think there is only at this stage for most countries there's only a couple tests on the second day, but the real high time during COVID, during the lockdown, so they were pretty hard having family in Italy and being here and, not knowing what's happening, everything changed one day to another. It was a nerve-wracking experience to do, and also it took me 18 months almost to get back to see my family, so it was quite a long time. So yeah.
Yes. And we're having the same issue with continual change. One strange thing after another. We took our mask off for 2 months, and then there was a mandate, full-time mask, and so far we don't have to do social, there's none of the 6 feet apart and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, but we have to have mask on, and the masks are mandated, and then there's a group of people that don't want the vaccines, and then there are people that have it, and then there are the people with the vaccines don't want to wear a mask, and then there's just all this cuckoo going on still
Yeah.
to this day. So, okay.
Well,
And I wanted to ask you about some of the so we're at 25 minutes, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about one thing. I wanted to ask you about your podcast. So you've got 27 now. And so some of the things I've learned from this is, and we've got other people clicking on the page here. I was looking to see if we have any questions yet right now with people clicking on it. No. Okay. Is public speaking is very valuable, but how do you think this has helped your public speaking? Or has it done anything for you in terms of creating a brand?
Well, it has definitely has helped creating a brand and positioning myself in I have a different position than I had before doing the podcast. That's for sure. Public speaking, I can start seeing the effects now of the podcast. I was invited to do like a conference, like a panel conference for in an expo, and unfortunately that day I couldn't do it. But I can start seeing this invitation coming along, and it's very interesting. And for me, even if I couldn't do the actual expo, but just be in contact because they found that the podcast it was educational. They wanted to do a panel on wine education with like schools and people who are doing wine education content. So I was very happy with that. But now it's creating a different opportunities, and the more I do it, then I'm sure the more it was going to come from it. But yeah, I mean, it's a patient game. I knew that it was going to take at least 3-4 years before the whole podcast, looking into one podcast, it's going to grow. At the moment, it's all establishing and putting down the right ethos about the episodes and about the guest I want to have, and then with time the people will come. As I said, if you make it, they will come.
Yes.
So, so I'm not worried about waiting or seeing. I know that at some point it will happen. The growth and everything. The growth is there, but it's always gonna take long time to have like massive numbers and this sort of things. But at the moment, I'm very happy with like having the contacts with new people and having the opportunity to being invited to events and having an opportunity to create content. And I'm happy to have out there for people to listen to. And yeah, if I can make happy 200 people, I can make happy 5,000 people for an episode. For me, I'm still feeling fulfilled. So that's for me is a big thing.
And we learn as we go. So if you were recommending to someone to start a podcast, what would be your recommendations? What would you encourage people to do?
Well, I think I would say prepare and know for any podcast now, there is a lot of competition and there is interest. If you're doing a podcast on a topic and then only like 50 people in the entire world are interested in that topic, probably you struggle to do it to achieve any level of success, but probably you would have 50 super loyal followers, which is fantastic. That's the thing about podcast is it can be for 500,000 people. It can be Joe Rogan and having 100 million download. You can have a smaller podcast where you have 1,000 download or 200 download, but you're still creating value for the community. And for me, podcast is a very interesting place. It's a very interesting medium, and I'm fascinated, and I love speaking to people. So it was the sort of go-to topic or the go-to medium for me to media. to go to. So, but if I was going to start again, I'd probably. What would I change? What would I suggest? What do I say to myself? Probably like be prepared to have some long evenings and a long early mornings to do research, inviting, and do a lot of these long hours. But it's fun.
I would say the same. I have a lot because I'm working with Europe. I have very early morning broadcasts, so I'm up really early, getting ready and putting makeup on and staying. I'm up late putting it together, so I understand all that. And then, so as we're closing here, let's talk a little bit about what would be some of your tips for entrepreneurs.
Well,
You're
I
an
mean, it's
entrepreneur.
well, yeah, sort of. Yeah, no, I am, but no, it's I mean, as every business, everything, so they take time before they get established, and you need to have faith that then people will come and creating something that is valuable, and you can sort of if you know, then you have a competitive advantage, or if you can really create a company which has a strong ethos and a strong uh, branding, then with time it's bound to grow. If you don't make, I mean, it's always managing the downside, and the upside that they will come. That's I mean, just don't rush to get to the final results, and just make sure that you don't have big downfalls, and make sure manage the downfalls, and then upside is takes care of himself with time.
I would say some of my entrepreneurial tips right now is I have done this for years. I write in my journal on a daily basis, and quite often I'll write down. Quite often, there's things I want in my life or things that I'm trying to create in my life, and I may not know the how to this at all. So I'll write it down and I'll look at it later, and I've accomplished this list of things that I said I was going to do. And it may be that it might be quite a bit later, and I don't know, or at the time I had no idea how I would accomplish this at all. And then I look later and I already did it and I accomplished it and it was done.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of affirmations as well as meditate. I think we were talking about during COVID, we were both meditating. And were you doing yoga or was someone else? There were a lot of people doing. Were you doing yoga
Yeah,
too?
I did. I did take on a bit of yoga, meditation. Definitely helps to sort of have a clear mind. I did. I did find it very good for myself in doing like a time management course, and how to deal with all my to-do list, and clean all my to-do list. My email address, I'm quite proud to say that every week it gets to zero, so very, very happy with that. So no, but yeah, for me it helps knowing like managing all my to-do list and all these sort of things has helped to maintain the calm and focus, and be able to see past all the little problems that should always come up, really.
Yes, and I have an extensive list of people to contact, and I think right now I could definitely see on my list that I don't know the how yet. I'm going to have a team of people. The one person show here is getting a little overwhelming. I need a secretary. I need a team of people. And so I'm writing all of that down right now. What I'm actually working on at the moment is um, tours to international countries as well as brand sponsorships. I think we both need brand sponsorships for our shows. And then we'll talk about that too. And also online classes and things like that. All right. Well, I guess we will close for today. So I wanted to close by talking a little bit about the broadcast. And again, I would like to encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And Mattia, can you tell us if they would like to contact you, how do they reach you? I've got your Twitter handle at the bottom of
Yeah.
the runner here.
So yeah, I use a fair bit of Twitter, and I'm also on LinkedIn as Mattia Scarpazza. You can find the on YouTube. I'm sorry, on Facebook you can find looking into wine. have a page there where I can be reached. But also, I think Twitter and LinkedIn are the easiest place where you can find me. You can add me on there, and I know you retweeted and you find me on Twitter. I'm on your list as well, so you can find me
and if
there.
they want to listen to your podcast, how do they find you?
So the podcast is everywhere you find any audio. So you find it on iTunes, Amazon Music, Spotify, Pandora, all the listening apps. Just have to type "looking into wine," or probably you would find it. And if I have interviewed someone and that you're looking for and I'm there, you would find me there too. So you can find me through search of some guest. I mean, I've done 28 episodes now. They're not thousands yet, but they're very broad topics. I spoke about wines of Portugal. I spoke about winemaking techniques. So there's all sorts of different things I speak to about. So you can definitely find something there. Are you interested?
Okay, let's see. I know I'd love to listen to them too. One of my situations here is I'm like you. I work early mornings, late nights, weekends.
Yeah,
I haven't been able to listen to anybody else's content.
yeah.
I'm like numero uno content creator over here. So anyway, well, thank you so much, Mattia from the UK. And anyone, if you have any questions, this will have a replay that you'll be able to watch during the day. I know we are on about 11 or 12 different Facebook pages right now. We are very global. So if you would like to ask us any questions, feel free to do that and go to my YouTube channel and subscribe if you would like to be entered to win into these beautiful wine stoppers from Avena. I'm on the wrong side here. Okay, Avena Wine Tools. If you're interested in that, go to my YouTube page and hit subscribe. And for today, we will end the broadcast. And thank you so much.
Thank you,
I will
Jessica.
talk to you soon. And I'll end it now. Here we go.
Thank